If you'd slept in an early human camp, the single biggest factor in whether you survived the night might not have been the fire, the barrier, or even how loud your group could shout. It might have been something far simpler, where physically your body was positioned when everyone lay down. Researchers tracking wild primate groups with GPS collars have found something remarkably consistent. Some positions in a sleeping group are measurably more dangerous than others, and the pattern of who ends up in those positions isn't random. It's social, which means for early humans, where you slept may have doubled as a quiet, permanent record of your status in the group. Let's discuss in 4 parts. Let's start with part 1. Part 1. 2 kinds of danger, 2 kinds of position. To understand why position matters, you need to understand that not all predators hunt the same way. And a 2023 study on wild baboons makes this distinction concretely. Coursing predators, hyenas, wild dogs, chase prey over long distances and attack from the open. That makes the edge of a group the most dangerous place to be, because it's the position most exposed to an approach from outside. Researchers call this marginal predation risk. Ambush predators, leopards, big cats, work completely differently. They lurk unseen and strike without warning from any direction, which means the danger isn't about being at the edge. It's about being isolated, cut off from the protective density of the group, wherever that isolation happens to occur. So there isn't one safe spot. There are 2 separate danger zones, shaped by 2 completely different hunting strategies, and any group sleeping in the open has to account for both at once. Part 2. The GPS data. Who actually ends up at risk? Here's where it gets specific. Researchers fitted GPS collars on 26 wild baboons in a group facing real predation pressure from leopards, lions, and hyenas, then mapped exactly who occupied the highest risk positions, using 5 different mathematical methods to measure exposure. The result was consistent across every single method. Adult males were the ones isolated at the edge of the group. Not juveniles, not females. Adult males, specifically. Why? Partly biology, partly social structure. In baboon troops, females stay in their birth group for life, while males disperse and join new groups as adults, which means adult males typically have few or no close relatives in the group they're sleeping with. Unrelated males are also often in direct competition with each other, and researchers suggest they maintain distance from one another to avoid conflict and injury. So the same social dynamics that reduce fighting among males may be the exact thing pushing them into the most predator-exposed positions in the group. Meanwhile, the center of the group tends to go to individuals who are dominant, highly social, long-term group members, or female and immature. In other words, position in a sleeping group isn't determined by need. It's determined by social capital. Part 3. Sleep itself is a vulnerability. Position isn't the only variable. Timing matters too. Sleeping animals are, by definition, among the most vulnerable versions of themselves. Unaware, slow to react, and effectively blind to their surroundings for hours at a stretch. Field research on wild baboons has found that individuals sleep measurably less when predation risk is elevated, meaning the body itself appears to trade off sleep quality against safety in real time. There's also a documented first-night effect. Sleep quality drops specifically on the first night in an unfamiliar sleeping location, and researchers suggest this may be a conserved survival response, because a new location comes with poor information about local risk, and poor information is itself dangerous. Sleeping site choice reflects this pressure directly. Across many primate species, groups favor sites that are physically harder for predators to reach. Tall trees, thick trunks, difficult approaches, precisely because sleep site selection has been consistently linked to perceived predation risk. For early humans without the option of tall tree, that same pressure had to be solved through something else: fire, thorn barriers, terrain, or the layout of the group itself. Part 4. What this looked like for early humans. Humans obviously aren't baboons, but the physics of the problem doesn't change. A resting group is vulnerable. Some positions in that group are more exposed than others, and someone has to occupy the exposed ones. Ethnographic accounts of modern hunter-gatherers show the social logic playing out in real sleeping arrangements. Among the Hadza of Tanzania, for example, children sleep in the same hut as their primary caregiver until puberty, kept close, inside the most protected position available. While that hut is typically built close to the huts of parents and grandparents, clustering related, invested adults together rather than scattering the group evenly. Camp-wide sharing of childcare responsibility is also a documented feature of Hadza social structure, meaning the center of camp isn't just where the most vulnerable individuals sleep, it's actively protected by a wider circle of adults with a stake in keeping them safe. This is exactly the same shape the baboon data showed. Safety isn't randomly distributed, and it isn't just physical. It's built out of social investment, who is worth protecting, and who has enough status to demand the safest spot. None of this means the people on the edges were expendable. It means the edge was where the cost of group living actually got paid, and someone in every generation paid it. In summary, the full picture looks like this. Predators don't threaten a resting group uniformly, and neither does a group defend itself uniformly. Two predator strategies create two different danger zones, the edge and isolation. The individuals who end up occupying those danger zones aren't chosen at random. They're shaped by social structure, status, and the practical costs of avoiding conflict within the group itself. And the vulnerability of sleep itself. The first night effect, the trade-off between rest and vigilance, meant that where and how a group slept was never a minor detail. It was one of the most consequential decisions a group made every single day. Fire gets remembered because it's dramatic. But long before anyone lit one, group position was already doing quiet, constant work, deciding night after night who was safest and who was exposed.